Hey guys, we're Beck and Chris and we live in a full drive 1993 Toyota Coaster, and when you live full time in a bus, little luxuries like hot water go a long way. There are a few different ways to heat your hot water in your van, bus or off-grid lifestyle. In this video I'm going to take you through the pros and cons of having a Truma D6 diesel hot water system. I'm going to go through what the componentries are, how to install it, what to think about when storing it in your van or bus or caravan, so you can make a complete informed decision on whether this thing is the best for you. The great thing about this is it's also inbuilt heater as well. So a really efficient heater, so it can also heat your space as well as your hot water. There's a few things to go through and definitely a few technical bits that you need to know. So the reason we've gone diesel over all the other systems like gas or even electric is purely because we wanted to limit our fuel source. So at the moment we have a great electrical system and we have a big old diesel bus that has a huge diesel tank. And we wanted to maximize that without having to put extra fuel sources like gas in for instant hot water systems. So with gas, you obviously have to have a big box with your gas bottle in it. That's just another fuel source that we have to remember to fill up. And then also there's that flammable factor that's always in the back of your mind. We want to spend a lot of time off grid, the reason we have a four-wheel drive bus. So if we're able to tap into our huge diesel tank that we already have and endlessly have hot water, that's a huge positive for us. So a few of the cons of the diesel hot water systems. First off, one of the major cons I would say is you have to wait 20 minutes for the hot water to heat up. Now, me coming from old school New Zealand where we had to wait 20 minutes anyway with a hot water system, it's not much of a worry. But for some people it is, so therefore the instant gas hot water system might be a better choice. So we've partnered with Caravan RV Camping and Truma to bring you guys this awesome Truma D6 diesel hot water system. It is honestly an absolute beauty and definitely one of the best on the market today. If you're thinking of purchasing anything for your caravan or RV, head on over to caravanrvcamping.com.au and use our discount code on the screen right now. You get a nice discount, and if you go ahead and click the link in the description, that's our affiliate link. It goes a long way to help fund these videos and bring you more content. Now let's head to the unboxing. So what comes in the box? First off is the internal ducting that you need to purchase separately to go through your bus. Now you do purchase this separately and it is a little bit expensive, so make sure you measure your internal caravan or bus and know where your duct is going to go before you purchase the right amount. Next off is the exhaust piping and the cowl. This basically pipes the exhaust out the back. Now we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's important you get the right size and you measure before you buy. Coming in next is all our diesel piping and our electricals. These are just plug and play. It also gives you plumbing fittings to make sure that all the plumbing is super easy. After that, they give you all the screws and extra attachments. While you're there, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if this is helping you. So let's go ahead, jump in the bus. So we've finished building the box for the hot water system, and now we're pretty much all ready to go ahead and start with the installation of it. So just one thing to note is there are minimum dimensions for the box you put it in, so just double check the operating instructions for that. But what we've done is just created a super simple alley with plywood sides area. You can see it fits in just fine. Alright, so a few things just to note before we go ahead and get started with cutting in the cowl on our bus. The exhaust fan needs to be about 300 mils away from a window or openable window. If you do have an openable window close to this mount, you need to actually fit a switch that whenever you open the window, it cuts the system off. But for the majority of people, they're going to actually install it on the side of the bus, and obviously that's what Truma recommends. For us, we're a bit limited with our space, so we only can do it at the back of the bus. Also, another thing to note is no tank nozzles or your fuel nozzles can be within 500 mils of it, and also it needs to be kept away at least 500 mil from your exhaust. Our exhaust luckily comes out the side, so we've got no problem with it at the rear. The great thing about Truma is they always provide templates. So they provided a template for our aircon, and they also provided a template cutout for this white cowl. So it's really easy. What I've done first is I've measured the height I want on the inside, just a small little drill hole, double check that is going to be the right height that I want it to, and then we can go ahead and cut this out. What we would do is we position it properly, tape it round, make sure I cut holes in the correct positions. Now what it recommends is in the corners you drill out 30mm holes so you can easily get the jigsaw. What I recommend is a jigsaw to cut out. That's what we're going to use. However, I've cut a few things into the bus lately, and so you can just maybe use a 10mm drill, but if you don't have one of these 30mm hole saws. Again, you're cutting into the bus, so you need to double, triple, quadruple check your measurements, but this obviously makes it so much easier for us. We're going to go ahead and tape the outside before we do any drilling or cutting. That masking tape protects the scratching, and then also it's a lot easier for us to mark out with our pen without obviously permanently marking on the bus. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do that to get started. Ran out of masking tape, so I'm doing it the difficult way. Want to make the exhaust and the cowl kind of on the same level as where it comes out of the system, right here. So if it goes out there, comes out, and then straight to there. What I'm going to do is basically I'm going to drill from this side first, therefore I can kind of get the average position of it, and then I'll level it from the outside and then cut from the outside. Let's keep going. Now when you're measuring to make sure that the cowl is going to be level or look nice on the side of your bus, make sure you choose a line that's like on the bus that is straight. Obviously don't level it off the ground because it's unlikely your bus is going to be perfectly level. What you want to do is just find a straight line. So in this case I can find it up top here, or probably I'll measure from the bottom. Alright, now we've got the template sorted. I'm just going to go ahead and drill another test hole just to double check everything's going to be fine. So quick tip as well, when you're cutting into your vehicle, just to minimize scratching around where you're cutting, try and put some tape on the bottom of your jigsaw. It'll help with not scratching it. Well, now comes the scary bit. Alright, see if that works. Perfect.
Woohoo! High five.
Looks like I did get the measurements right. 60% of the time, it works every time. So with our bus and the majority of car bodies, you just have a really small, thin sheet metal that is the outside. And when you're drilling in and screwing in something like that cowl, which is relatively a little bit heavy, what you want to do is probably put a little bit of a backing, timber backing, just so those screws, when they come through, purchase on something else and give it a little bit of something to grip onto. Because that thin bit of sheet metal can rip out of the screws really easily. So I've just got a little bit of ply, and then you can use the cutout that you just got for cutting into your bus, trace around it, give it maybe 20mm on the outside, a little bit more, and then cut around it as well. So now when I screw in that cowl, it's screwing into the sheet metal and then into that timber as well. Alright, so now what we've done is we've built our backing, our timber backing, and we just want to go ahead with a cloth, ideally with a bit of methylated spirits as well, and just clean the outside of the hole. So then when we go ahead and use our automotive body sealant, the instructions say specifically try not to use silicone, so I highly recommend using automotive body sealant or some high temperature sealant. We've got some of that here. So what I need to do is go ahead and pump that sealant around the cowl. Then I'm going to go plop it on, screw it into place, make sure then it is nice and flush, looks nice, and then I'm going to do the remaining of the screws. So go ahead. Alright, now while this black part and the sealant that kind of squished out when we've gone ahead and screwed in the cowl isn't visible because this kind of white plate goes over the top, I still like to kind of clean up the edges. And there's a little tip for if you're doing any other projects and cutting it in, but at Bunnings you can get these little edges. They're little small edges, super cheap, like $2 or something. And then what you want to do is get a half detergent, half water mixture in a spray bottle, and then you just spray around the edges and then use this little edger to edge it through. Alright, so that finishes off finally. Pretty happy that that went quite smoothly actually. I thought we didn't really have too many problems. Now one thing to note though is that the final screws to get the white plate on the top is this type of head. It's a little bit odd, I don't know why they've decided that, you know, obviously to make it hard to take off maybe. But it's this type of head, so if you don't have that one then yeah, you're gonna have to probably go ahead and get that while you're at Bunnings. Okay, so let me explain a few things about the fuel pumping setup, because if you kind of get this wrong, it can annoy you like anything. So before this system, I had a cheaper Chinese diesel heater system. It wasn't a water heater, it was just air heater. And the thing is with the cheaper versions is that these pumps are quite loud and they give like a ticking sound that can really be frustrating, especially at night when you're trying to sleep. It's almost like it vibrates through the van or your bus. Now, what Truma have decided to do with this one is obviously they have a high quality pump, but then you can see as well they've got this little mounting thing that like kind of keeps it at the perfect angle. All right, now I've created this plywood backing just to mount it in the particular spot I want to underneath the bus. That doesn't come with it, but this metal bracket with the thing positions it like that. Now, for the pump to work properly, you can't really see quite, but it needs to stay between 15 to 35 degrees. If it doesn't, then basically what it does is it doesn't pump efficiently and it can start not performing the best. All right, so you need to make sure that you can mount this as well. You can see at the bottom here, there's a little screw at the bottom, so you can mount that, you know, to the bottom of your floor if you wanted to mount it within your van or bus. In my particular case, I didn't want to mount this pump in the bus just because I just prefer kind of diesel pumping mechanisms to be outside of the bus, that's for sure, in case anything went wrong. Now, another thing that Truma gives you is this stuff here. It's kind of like a protective foam barrier, and what it does is it helps with that ticking noise as well. So that's really nice that they give you that. It's kind of like a sound deadener damper thing. When they give it to you, they give you a huge length of this fuel pipe line and this deadener stuff. So our bus is 6 meters long, and if our tank for some reason was at the front of the bus and this is at the back, it would have definitely ran the whole length. They give you quite a bit, so don't worry about the amount of fuel line and the amount of this dampener. That's not much of a problem. So as well, they say when you're mounting it, when you attach this to your body of your car, you don't want to zip tie it or clip it really tight. What you want is it actually to be loose, slightly loose. Therefore, it doesn't transfer that sound through the body as much. So you want to make sure that that's kind of zip tied, or however you want to clip it. They give you some clips as well you want to make sure that's loose so it doesn't really give off that heavy ticking sound. So this is really the fuel setup. This is coming from right here, this little elbow here is coming from the diesel heater, and then it'll connect into the pump, and then from there this outlet will go to your diesel tank. Now whatever you have, you might have a separate diesel tank that's pumping out of, or you might want to directly pump it out of your existing fuel diesel fuel tank in your van or bus. For us, we're connecting it to our secondary fuel tank, so we're putting some custom connections there because we're not directly putting it into the primary tank. It's our secondary fuel tank. Here in Aussie, it's pretty normal to have a secondary fuel tank for long range vehicles. Now, they do provide a kit that allows you to connect to most vans. However, I don't have that kit, and I don't really have anything to show you on that one. I did see there's some other videos on YouTube showing you how to connect if you have a particular van, connecting it direct to your primary fuel tank. Alright, cool. The other one is this one as well. So this connection is the fuel metering pump, and if you can think of it, that's going down to the bottom where the pump is going to be positioned. But this is the other end, and the other end connects there. So it says basically, so you need to really, for the fuel lines, you need to drill, if you're going underneath the bus, you need to drill 2 lines, one for this pump to go through to underneath the bus, and then another hole for this as well. For me, I drilled 13 mil, and this just fitted, and this 13 mil as well was perfect. It's got a little bit of leeway, but you need to get that thing through. 13 mil, 13 mil. They don't really tell you that in the instructions, and then that is clipping onto that. Alright, so that's kind of the fuel system. Now we're going to go ahead and rig it up. Okay, cool. So what we've done is we've finished our fuel lines. This is to the fuel pump, electrical to the fuel pump. This is the diesel fuel line coming up, and we'll go in there. So now that's all sorted. We're done with there, connected up to the diesel tank. Now we're on to water. Now really the water is quite simple. There's not too much to do. However, we need a few holes drilled there. We've got this 22 mil drill hole for the drain, and then this is kind of like an overflow for the hot water drain, I think. So that's another one. Then the other one, the reason I have drilled through this particular frame, I think one of the most important parts is this kind of drain valve as well. So it allows you to drain the tank. But the problem is this needs to be easily accessible. So in this particular box that I have here, it's not very accessible from anywhere, as over the top will actually be a bed. See where that is? That'll be a bed across there. But is accessible via this little hatch here, so on the other side where all my pumping equipment is. So what I want to do is I want to install this valve basically right here, so I can easily access it from that, and also then I can then connect it up to the mains line system. So that's where that is going at the moment. Now, obviously you need to perfectly situate everything before going ahead and doing this. But yeah, now I think we're all good to go, and let's go ahead and start connecting all the stuff up. Just before we go ahead and put the diesel heater in and connect up the exhaust, now's a great time to run all your ducting and make sure it is all drilled in and screwed in. Depending on the size of your caravan or your bus and your layout, you'll all run your ducting differently. Ideally, you want to run your ducting underneath your seat as hot air rises. However, if you have a small space like we do, it doesn't always work like that. So some of our ducting is in roof cavities, and then some of our ducting is underneath seats. One thing I would say though is this diesel heater is powerful, and no matter where you put your ducting, especially in a Toyota Coaster of this size, it warms the whole place, even in negative temperatures. Now let's quickly jump back into the bus, and I'll show you how to install the vents for the ducting. So basically what happens is you drill a 60 mil hole, then it's going to sit like that basically, if that makes sense. This goes to the back, that goes to the front. So wherever you're screwing it in, this needs to be relatively thin, because if you're using a double thick base, if that makes sense, then this doesn't actually screw into the, if it's too large. So it kind of only needs to be, you know, about that size really. This end right here goes into the ducting, and then you can see that little groove in there. The ducting fits into that groove, and then the black part clicks on the back. So it's pretty simple, pretty easy. They do provide these as well, which I think just helps with clipping them, maybe if you're doing them on the roof or anything like that. You can see I've just clipped that one to the side. Mark up where you want your vents and then drill them out with a 60mm hole saw, using a bit of tape over it so you don't damage your cabinetry. So there we go, 2 60mm holes, all drilled. After that, all you got to do is screw in your vents, and then on the other side you just push in your ducting. Now we've got a white ducting in this because we're actually installing our aircon vents. The ducting that you get with your diesel heater is a brown color and is specially made for heating. So they're both the same size though, so if you get both products together, you do need to have separate ventings for them. Okay, so now we are installing this kind of exhaust muffler. Basically, there's a few things to really understand with this. Now, for us, what I didn't quite understand right at the start was how basically important this is to be the right length. When I ordered it, I actually didn't know where I was going to put the heater, and therefore I just ordered a 100cm long one of these, which was far too long for this particular space. However, the problem is you can't cut this because there's an O-ring in the back of it that basically is really difficult to get out, this metal kind of ring, and then to fix back on. So you have to order the perfect size that basically goes into here, and then according to the instructions, it's imperative that it slides all the way in to the end. Apparently that's really, really important, and then perfectly fits here. So what I recommend is you 100% measure the space and measure where you're going to do before you fix this thing down. Now for us, in our space, it is super tight in the back here, and we can't really move this thing too much forward or back. Where you're putting it, you might have kind of a better spot so you can move it around, but for us, it was a big mistake and I had to do a return, wait 2-3 weeks for that to kind of get back to us. So in the instructions, there's really nothing about the height of where the cowl is, but obviously, you know, in the diagrams, it kind of shows that it's the same height as the hot water system. So by that I mean just like, you know, it kind of going like this to the same height. Now that we have the perfect size for us, it was 70 centimeters. Basically, it's going right to the back here. So that's the rear of the cowl, if you can see that. Let's just have a little look. That's the cowl. So sliding all the way in and going right to the back, making sure that that's good. And then it's going to go into here. Now, I haven't slid it in yet. This is an O-ring. So when you're testing it out, just making sure it's the right length, make sure you don't pinch this O-ring. It's really important. If you pinch it and break it, then you're going to have to get a new one. So just watch out for that. Now next, what goes over is this thing right here. So that kind of black thing goes over it, basically protecting obviously the heat that's coming from there. And so this is a little bit of a fiddly thing to do really, is that basically you got to slide it on through to the back and then perfectly cut to this side, and then you got it all kind of at the same time. So it's not really the easiest thing to do when you don't have too much space, but yeah. Last thing is this little screw here. You got that little screw, goes in there in the end, and then to secure this, once it's pushed in, you've got a little clip that goes like that. Alright, to get that O-ring in was a little bit annoying. Now I noticed, because I could see through this hole, that the O-ring was starting to catch and getting pulled back. You don't want that to happen. So what I did, I just put a little bit of saliva around it. Maybe if you had some engine oil, you could just put the slightest bit of engine oil around it and just slowly kind of slide it back and forth, really slowly, until you can see that O-ring stays within its groove and then through to the end.
Really important that that's there and then that's stuck. Otherwise, it's not gonna have a good seal. And do it slowly, make sure you don't pinch that O-ring, because yeah, otherwise you'll be waiting for replacements. Cool, so now what I wanna do is I wanna put this thing in. I might need 2 hands for that, and then I'll put this one over. Don't forget, you gotta make sure you have these O-rings as well over the top of the main cover. So put them on first, otherwise you will have to rip it out and put them on. All right, perfect. That's what it looks like. Pretty easy. Little clip there. Now this just goes over the top, and where'd it go? Oh, and then this slides over, and we tighten it on top. Then that's fully protected. Next is all we do is we install this little kind of, I don't know what this thing is, muffler thing, but that's just a slide in, so not too bad.
Next up, we are installing the control panel that, you guessed it, controls the whole diesel heater. It also controls the Truma aircon if you have one of those as well, but it's a really easy install. They basically give you a small backing plate. You just need to cut a hole in wherever you want. We chose to put it above our bed, and it's actually been a great decision because many times during the night, you know, we've woken up middle of the night, it's been a bit too hot and we've just turned it off, or it's been a bit too cold and we've turned it on. The light doesn't stay on, so it doesn't keep you awake at night.
So the final piece as well is you got to pull this knob off, and then just right here, you'll be able to see a screw hole. And when you're putting this plate on, you kind of got to angle it up and then down a little bit, and then that kind of clicks over the switchboard on the back there. But that's how you fix this board to the base plate, with just that little screw. So it's a super small screw, and literally you just pull off this knob. This is the size of it that they give you. Very, very small, so you don't want to lose it. Gonna need a smaller screwdriver for this one. Really small screw, so. Alright, screws in. Get the knob. That's the back, and yeah. Perfect, that's us. Now, obviously, where I'm installing it, I can access the back, which is probably not that ideal because you more or less want to, if you can, have it as like a false back. So you would install the communications cable, and you would also install the power as well before you put it in. But in this particular case, I can kind of access it on the back. So yeah, I'm gonna have to make some sort of little back plate to make it look nice on the back there. Then I can run the cables out and down towards the diesel heater. But other than that, it's looking good.
Next thing is to install the temperature sensor. Now the manual says you should install this above the door. However, the cord wasn't long enough to run it from the back of the bus all the way to the front door where we go in and out. So we just put it above our bed, and it seems to be working absolutely fine. With the install complete, just before we go ahead and go into the review, I want to remind you, use the discount code if you want to purchase anything from Caravan RV Camping on the screen right now. And if you click on that link in the description, it does go a long way to help fund this content. So let's go through the 6-month review on how the diesel heater performed. Alright, with the install done, just before we end this video, I'm going to give you a quick review. It's been 6 months since we've installed the system, and we absolutely love it. Compared to what we had before, the Chinese diesel heater, the heating part of the Truma is so good. It's really, really quiet. You can't hear the pump at all when it's running at night. So we actually have it underneath our bed. It's right where Beck sleeps, and we run it all night, and Beck doesn't have a problem at all staying awake because of the noise. So it's super quiet, keeps the place really warm. We have put it through the test. We went all the way down the Great Ocean Road, which is in Victoria, south of Melbourne, and it was negative temperatures. We even took it up to Thredbo and Perisher with negative temperatures overnight as well, and we were super cozy in the bus. It warms up the place really, really quickly. The next is the hot water. Hot water wise, we've mainly used it to just do our dishes. We do have the odd shower at the moment. It's taken us a while to install our shower, but it hasn't been a problem waiting the 20 minutes for us. There has been, sure, some days when we've come back and been like, man, I want an instant shower coming off the mountains or something like that. But really, waiting 20 minutes by the time you get all your gear off, isn't a problem at all. So we thought that might have been a problem, not so much. Either way, this system is really quiet. The fact that we don't have gas in our bus is a huge plus, so I would really recommend it. I would also pair it with the aircon that we have as well. Truma has an aircon. If you want to learn about that product as well, click the video below. Other than that, hope you liked the video, guys. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you in the next one.